What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back for another tune from the Radical Dreamers vinyl from 2022 by Yasunori Mitsuda, a tribute to and expansion of a handful of selected tracks from the original Chrono soundtrack. Once again, major shout out to hero of the channel and good friend of mine, Chris. And we're going to listen to Scars of Time. So I reacted to Scars Left by Time from the original soundtrack, one of my favorites, and basically the main tune, the main theme of the original soundtrack. It's the theme that plays in the rolling. It's not opening credits. It's more the if you let the game sit in the menu, it goes into this story slash sampling of what the game has to offer. Essentially, the preview I think that was released prior to the game coming out, and it's fantastic. And it starts slow and tender and emotional, and then it invigorates, and it has this, again, sort of like Celtic band type of feel, which again, I've been thinking about it. Someone mentioned, a couple people commented on the track that Mitsuda composed for this record anew, the fact that it was in Gaelic being a bit interesting. And I was thinking about that because, I mentioned in the end credits to the original game, if you get the good ending, you eventually see a short live action sequence where a woman who looks, she's off camera, but it looks like it's probably the character from the game. She's walking around modern day Japan, but the game takes place in a complete other world. It had, it's not related to Earth. So basically I was thinking the idea that, this game was made in Japan by Japanese game producers and programmers, but the idea of them choosing a folk music style different, from a different part of the world to be part of their created world, it makes sense to me even if I never really thought about it that way. In that, it becomes more exotic, and that's, the game is popular in North America and other places around the world, but ultimately choosing a sort of Celtic music style for some of the tunes, it makes sense to me even though it seems like a random or arbitrary choice. So yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, so shout out to Michaela and a couple others who I think mentioned that. Either way, this is Scars of Time, so altering the name slightly. I'm not sure if Scars Left by Time are the visible and perhaps the evidence of pain or the evidence of experience, certainly, where Scars of Time, you could read it the same way, but you could maybe read it as time itself has been scarred, which would fit with the game. So yeah, ultimately, again, I think you could read the new title either as the old version, just a slightly different way of phrasing it, or perhaps saying something different. So either way, big shout out to Yasunori Mitsuda, and once again, shout out to Chris. I did want to point out the label on the sleeve, this sort of, under the surface of the water imagery. That is what the main menu of the game looks like when you're going to start a new game or continue an ongoing game. So, the packaging here, and again, the booklet, it's amazing. I'm still sort of, beginning to go through it. So, as I said, big shout out to Chris. Let's listen to it. This is Scars of Time, I believe, an updated version of Scars Left by Time by Yasunori Mitsuda, both the original and this version, included on the Radical Dreamers vinyl from 2022. It's so hard to find. There we go. It's like the groove between the tracks. Very small. Oh, it's different, but it's amazing. more of a Near Eastern, like Middle Eastern feel to it. And also, I think a couple elements from some other tracks from the original soundtrack. Favorite part of the original. So it's interesting. In the end, it still retains a bit of that like Celtic music feel, but it also felt very, again, like Western Asia, like Near East type of sonic. So yeah, the blending of some different elements, I think, from because there's a couple tracks in the original soundtrack which have that sort of flavor. Like there's one I'm thinking of. You go to this area where there's like a dig site going on. It's like you have to like go down to the like where they're extracting material from. What are you doing? Oh, she's attacking. Luca's sitting back there and she's attacking the shoestrings. So yeah, I feel like there's some blending of elements from a couple of the tunes from the original, but it comes across as a very updated version of the Scars Left by Time here as Scars of Time. You know, given how much I've loved and listened to the original, like I still will place that in its, you know, its proper place as the lead tune, but I like this version and it's a bit more dissonant. It feels a bit more, you know, like there's troubles or dangers afoot, whereas the first one feels a bit more, there's possibilities afoot, there's, you know, things that can happen if you're in the right place at the right time. This feels like, you know, the other side of that maybe, which, you know, both of those relate to the games, I should say, Chrono Trigger as well. So, yeah, I like what he did with it. It has a bit more of a storm, kind of a maelstrom feel to it, but still elegant and still with the, you know, overall feeling of the original, just, you know, rendered differently. So yeah, cool update to a classic track. Shout out to Yasunori Mitsuda once again. When we come back, it's A Dream Never Forgotten, which in the moment, I don't remember like which tune that might be built off of. Let me just interrupt myself right there. So I had just been looking at the imagery, the, you know, the pictures that are included in the booklet, but I didn't look. Yasunori Mitsuda has a bit of information for each of the tracks, so I'm going to read the information for both Dreams of the Past, Memories of My Soul, and Scars of Time. I should mention the reason I didn't know or I didn't recognize what A Dream Never Forgotten might be based on is because the track that it's built off of is from Radical Dreamers, which is It was for the I don't think it was Game Boy. It was for like a portable system for the Nintendo. So I guess like Game Boy Advance maybe. I'm not sure, but basically it came out after the Chrono Trigger game, before Chrono Cross, and presages a number of things that they developed more fully in Chrono Cross. But because it was on a portable system, I never played it, and I do think it's, you know, notably less well known than the two main games of the franchise. So that's why I didn't recognize the title. In any case, here is what Yasunori Mitsuda says about Dreams of the Past Memories of My Soul, which I had already reacted to, and there's information here that is relevant that I wish I would have known when I did the intro. And that is, the remaster includes both Chrono Cross and the game Radical Dreamers, originally released on the Nintendo Satellaview? Satellaview. So like, you know, satellite, but it's Satellaview console. In fact, there's a menu screen where you can choose which one to play. I knew that section needed a song, which is how I found myself composing something specifically for this release. The lyrics are in Gaelic, and they're all about Kid in Search. I aimed to write something in a style that fit both Radical Dreamers and Chrono Cross so that it could bridge the gap between them. The singer is Aisling McGlynn. I had wanted to find a female artist of around 16, the same age as Kid, and I happened to stumble across Aisling. Her voice is beautiful and powerful, not to mention enthralling. The fact that she can channel Kid's emotions through her singing is what gives the song its strength. So again, that like now makes me, it further informs what I was thinking, and also the decision making about what it should sound like was way more specific and related to the game than, or not related to the game than I thought, but related to specific aspects of the character, I should say. So Scars of Time, the one I just reacted to, one similarity shared by the music of both Radical Dreamers and Chrono Cross is the nod to the radical trad style. Radical trad refers to a reimagining of traditional music with added experimental elements. The genre started to gain popularity in the 1990s in Slavic countries and Eastern Europe. Whenever people try to push, it's like on the background of like the beach, so there's some like lines that are a little unclear. But whenever people try to push boundaries, there's always a backlash and subsequent attempt to crush the attempt. This isn't limited to traditional music either. I took risk when composing the original soundtrack, hoping for a new and relatable sound. That's why I wrote music that was easy to listen to and familiar. But now, 22 years later, I think it's time to do more of that radical traditional music I wanted to write in the first place. That's how I arrived at its current iteration. Honestly, I had originally wanted to include indigenous and avant-garde elements throughout the score. You know what he's doing when you hear it. But I didn't think the music of Chrono Cross would have been understood at the time of its release if I had. Well, there you go. From the man himself, wanted to do a bit more of a, unconventional, like pushing the envelope type of sound, mixing elements from different sort of sonic cultures, but went for a more, obviously consonant version for the original based on, the fact that he didn't want the soundtrack to, detract from the game in any way. Well, I have news for you, it didn't, but I also like that you were able to do, in some ways, what you wanted to do originally. So, top stuff. Shout out to Yasunori Mitsuda. Shout out to Chris once again. Let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.